So we're in the shadows of the 2015 federal budget, to be handed down very shortly by the Federal Treasurer. As we know, it will be the second Abbott government budget, and there's a lot of expectation about what it might bring. I'm joined by Tony Greco to discuss what the IPA says about the federal budget 2015. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you, Andrew.
And it's going to be an interesting night on budget night, isn't it? There's a lot of expectation from the small business community, particularly about expected tax cuts, which have already been discussed by the government about the 1.5% tax cut to small business. What are the other things on your radar, Tony, that you think might be coming down the line in relation to the budget?
Yeah, I think it should be a good budget from a small business perspective. We've already had a couple of announcements. We've had the 1.5% tax cut for small business announced or flagged early on in the year, but there's more. The benefits are going to be spread a little bit wider. We had an announcement yesterday in relation to professional costs, special write-off, rather than having to wait 5 years. We're expecting more. The instant asset write-off, Andrew, something that went up to 6,500 under Labor, and it was pushed back to 1,000 because of the mining tax debacle. We're expecting that threshold to be as high as 10,000, but more to come on budget night. So that's one thing that's on the table. But there's also strong messages coming out that there's more. Yeah. And what we're expecting, something that the IPA has pushed for some time, is for those businesses that are not incorporated, that they will receive some sort of rebate or concessionary treatment with respect to their business income. So something that might be positive, might be a positive surprise for IPA, something that we've been pushing for some time. We'll see possibility of some further relief for small business.
And so one of the things that features in our Australian Small Business White Paper, which we've authored about to release, is that very point about a lower concessionary rate of tax for small business. So we'll watch on budget night with bated breath and wait with bated breath to see whether that gets up. But I think all the indications are that this is very much a budget that's going to be skewed towards small business. I think the mantra of the government has changed in advance of this budget. It's moved away from a budget crisis in 2014 now to delivering a budget that is measured, responsible and fair, I think, are some of the language being used by the government. So perhaps the message has been heard that the spending cuts last year were deep and they were severe, and we might be looking to be for perhaps a more moderate budget this time around.
Yeah, absolutely. The plan is a credible return to surplus. I think 2008 was the last time we had a federal budget surplus. As far as going forward, we're looking at budget deficits, but what the market is looking for is a credible return to surplus, something that won't... we had the Reserve Bank reduce interest rates this week, and we don't want the federal government cutting back spending, and political reality has stepped in as well. Basically, the government had a lot of issues with passing a lot of those spending measures, but there will be integrity measures. So rather than tax increases on the night, there's going to be integrity measures, things that are going to tighten up a lot of loopholes in the tax system. So whilst we won't see tax increases, things like FBT entertainment was earmarked today as something that could be looked at, and we were referring to the uncapped nature of FBT concessions. So we're expecting that those will be capped on budget night. We're also, in relation to multinationals, we probably won't follow the UK example of an anti-profits diversion tax, probably extension of GST on downloads or internet shopping. That could be a surprise on the night. There's also extension of GST on internet shopping is the other measure that could surprise us.
It's interesting. I heard the Prime Minister this morning talking about that, referring to some companies that are charging GST on those transactions and some that are not, and he did send quite a clear signal that will be looked at on budget night. So it's not all good news. Of course, we're anticipating further savings for small business, further incentives for small business, and possibly there's the asset write-off issue. There's a small business tax cut. But the offset of all those will probably be some of these integrity measures you're talking about, which is not always going to be a good make for a good news story for everyone on budget night. There's always winners, there's always losers of a budget. So it sounds like some of those large multinationals might be doing some calculations the morning after the budget. One of the other things, Tony, we've talked about as part of our small business white paper is the prospect of a zero rate of tax for small business. Obviously, the tax white papers going on, so that the government does have the fallback position to say, in relation to major tax reform, that look, the tax white paper process is unfolding, have your input in that. But what are your thoughts in relation to where the tax white paper situation is at in terms of that background going into the budget?
Yeah, there's no question that the tax system is out of kilter with the way things work in the economy as we speak. So the tax white paper will look at the macro issues. So we're looking at it, hopefully a change in the tax mix. And when it comes to small business, there's even concepts as zero rate of tax, especially in the early stages of a business life cycle. At the moment, a lot of the concessions are stacked up at the end of the life cycle. So there is some serious thinking, and we're going to add to that there should be some concessions for especially startups, move some of those existing tax concessions from the end of the business cycle and load them up into the first stages, the growth stages. So we're looking at potentially some exciting different ways of looking at taxing that critical part of the economy.
So, and of course, the IPA has been having a very extensive discussion and dialogue with the government about these policy changes as part of our pre-budget submission process. Details of the pre-budget submission are actually on our website, so do follow the links to the IPA website to see the detailed pre-budget submission. Tony, one of the last things I was going to talk to you about was there's a lot of discussion in public about negative gearing.
Sure.
And there was some push to have negative gearing wrapped up as part of the budget to potentially abolish negative gearing on investment properties. We obviously have a very strong view on that in relation to the breadth of negative gearing, the impact on social policy, but then also the other aspects of negative gearing being the CGT at the other end of the transaction. So your thoughts on that negative gearing discussion that's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. We don't expect any changes to negative gearing. We're not here to say that the government should abolish it. At the end of the day, it is a concession, and the concession lies not so much in the negative gearing, the offset of the losses against other income. It's more to do with the capital gains discount that people can take advantage of. So converting those tax losses and then getting the benefit of the capital gains. So there's lots of things to reduce the overall costs. At the end of the day, negative gearing also provides a lot of benefits. At the moment, there's a supply issue in the marketplace, and to make any drastic changes to negative gearing would exacerbate those supply issues. So we're looking for a more balanced approach when it comes to negative gearing. So we're not calling for an abolishment, but there are many options going forward to take a little bit off the table, but at the same time maintain negative gearing in the marketplace.
So there's a lot to come on budget night. The great thing is the IPA team, including Tony and Vicky and the rest of our team and technical team, will be working very hard on budget night to get members the most up-to-date response from the budget, so that you are very well versed when you receive those calls from clients the morning after the budget saying, what does this mean for me? We'll be right there with you to inform you on the night as soon as it happens. So Tony, thanks very much. An interesting budget coming up. We look forward to the analysis that unfolds. Thanks for your time, Tony.
Pleasure.
And we'll stay in touch with our members, of course, through the website, through our digital channels on Facebook, LinkedIn and YouTube, but also importantly through the Pub Act website and our very own publicaccountants.org.au. So that's what the IPA says in relation to Budget 2015.